This is Max Miller. I am the voice of the Radical Center. And if you're wondering what that is, if you're listening to me for the first time, where have you been? Let me just say that. You can go to maxmiller.live. But we have a guest, Mike Toth, who's running.
Mike Toth.
Yeah, Mike, are you there running for the Third Court of Appeals?
I am. I'm delighted to be with you today, Max. Thank you for having me on the program.
Hey. Well, you might not thank me at the end, but right now you can. So as you can tell, Mike, I am an American by my heavy Texas accent, and we have your buddy here, Ron.
Mike.
He was the one that got you set up. So I'm going to hand it over to Ron quickly.
Well, I'm just going to introduce you real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Joining us today is Mike Toth. He is the incumbent for Place 6 of the Third Court of Appeals. So we're going to talk to him a little bit about what he does up there. His experience includes working on Attorney General Ken Paxton's staff, dealing with some numerous exciting things, and he'll talk about that and forming legal arguments. He was also in the military. He was a Marine. So thank you for your service. And if I remember right, you were also on the Bush White House staff. Is that correct, Mike?
That is correct. You hit some of the high points there, Ron, and just an absolute delight to be on this program today and to talk about my race for the Third Court of Appeals as we are in the middle of early voting as we speak.
I have already voted.
Right. And I have too.
I voted. Did you vote?
I voted on Wednesday morning.
Wow. Okay. Well,
you guys are great.
Yeah. Holy cow! I even got my teenager to vote.
Yes. Congratulations.
I was explaining that actually, Mike, during the break here, that I won't embarrass my son by telling you what his name is, but there was a very cute girl in line, and he totally ignored her because Dad was in the way. Right. And that was, you know what teenagers are like.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was, I think I embarrassed him just by breathing.
I was going to say, I pretty much think that's Dad's fault, right?
He's just out of sight of his teenage years.
I just embarrassed him just by being alive.
That's right.
And suggesting we go vote. Yeah, okay.
Hey, Mike, before we get to, what exactly does, the Court of Appeals do? Because we all know you guys do subpoenas and warrants and, kick in doors and stuff like that, right? But I want to talk to you a little... Go ahead.
Not exactly.
I know.
The appeals courts in Texas handle cases that are appealed to them from any of the trial courts that are in their jurisdiction. So the Third Court of Appeals covers 24 counties, probably covers most, if not all, of your listeners. I know you guys got a pretty wide scope, but we cover a wide area as well. We go from Fayette County all the way to Tom Green County, and we cover Williamson County, Travis County, Hayes County.
That's a pretty large area.
It's a huge area, and I can tell by looking at the odometer on my car. I did a primary election, did a runoff election, got a new set of tires, and we're running hard through the finish in November. So basically, any case that gets tried, civil or criminal, in any of those 24 counties, which gets appealed, comes to us. But I would be remiss if I didn't also emphasize that we handle the vast bulk of regulatory law cases, of cases involving state agencies. And the significance of that is hard to underestimate.
Is that for legal sufficiency, making sure it complies with existing laws?
That's exactly it. If there's a case involving a state rule or state law, a state regulation, it could involve a party in El Paso and Houston and Dallas, really in any part of our state. But because of the way the system is set up, they would come to Travis County for the litigation, and then if there's an appeal, it would come to the Third Court of Appeals. So we handle the vast bulk of the very important regulatory law docket
I'm sure you guys have a pretty active docket, especially in the state of Texas.
We do, yeah. We have a very active docket, and we've gotten recognized for being the court that's least reversed by the Texas Supreme Court. They grade our papers, and also for moving very quickly through the cases, very high clearance rate, and what that refers to is the ability to kind of clear the docket, because if you don't clear the docket, you got new cases coming in.
It doesn't stop.
They start lining up like aircraft at DFW. So the court's working very well, and I'm hoping to return for a full term on the court. As you mentioned, I'm served our country as a Marine officer. I served our state as special counsel fighting against federal overreach. Now I'm serving as a justice, and I'm ready to serve for a full term if elected on Election Day, November 6th.
Well, cool. Well, I think Max has a question for you.
I do. I have quite a few, actually, but we'll go through a few at a time. So I have a question. So why do you think, of the most obvious one, is why do you think you're qualified there, Mike? What can you bring to the table? Just so you know, I went to your website, And it looked to me like you're running for office as opposed to being a judge. Everything is Trump this, Trump that. Why are you bringing such a political take to what it is you're doing? Why do you think you're qualified to be on the Third Court of Appeals?
Well, I've got a broad range of experience. I've got military experience. I've got experience in the trial court. I've got experience in the appeals court. I've got experience at the Texas Attorney General's office. I've got experience working in our judiciary. I work for not one but two different federal judges, a trial court judge and an appeals court judge, working on those opinions. I've got White House experience, and kind of this broad range of experience that I have is why we have been able to get so many critical endorsements. Of course, I was appointed by Governor Abbott, and I'm very proud to have the support of Governor Abbott, but also Senator John Cornyn, who served with Governor Abbott on the Texas Supreme Court, the two former Chief Justices of Texas, and a range of other Texas justices from the Supreme Court as well as from the appeals court. It's because of the experience, because of the qualification, and also, Max, I think it's because of the judicial philosophy that I have. I have a long history of applying the law as written. Applying the law as written as a litigator working for the Texas Attorney General's office, in many of these cases dealing with federal overreach.
At the appellate level, is it your job to interpret and apply the law or make the law?
Well, it's your job always to apply the law as written. Judges are not policymakers. Our policymakers belong to what we call the political branches of our government.
Yeah, so if I
the role of the judge is to be an umpire, is to call balls and strikes.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. So let me ask you, though, speaking of that, so Donald Trump has obviously done many things which many people would believe are actually against the rule of law. He's never given up his businesses. They've attacked him for the emoluments clause, for example. Do you believe that Donald Trump has done anything to actually go against the United States Constitution?
Well, while I was working at the Texas Attorney General's office, I had a chance to work there during the Obama administration as well as during the Trump administration. And, the experience of working in the state attorney general's office is really important because it really gets you to understand what the lines of demarcation are, what the role of the federal government is, what the role of separation of powers is, what the role of the Bill of Rights are. The point of a lawyer at the attorney general's office in any of the 50 states is not to be in favor of an administration or to be against administration. It's not to be supporting an administration for political purposes or to be resisting an administration. It's really to take a look at the law, to take a look at what's going on, and to ask yourself, is there a issue here? And during the course of my time at the Texas Attorney General's office, I had a lot of experience working on cases that involve the federal government, and that's really informed my judicial philosophy.
Yeah,
and again, it's a judicial philosophy of impartiality. I think that's really the critical point
I have to say, though, I think Ginger has a question for you. But before we get to that, though, if it's impartiality, why are you running so close to Trump? Why aren't you running as an independent, for example?
Well, in Texas, we run for our courts. It's different from the federal system, for example. It's different from the system in a lot of the other states. We have judicial elections here in Texas. And I'd be remiss if I didn't, again, encourage folks to get out there and
Absolutely.
vote. We're right in the middle of early voting. Go to my website. It's www.miketothforjustice.com. Again, www.miketothforjustice.com. You've got a lot of information there about my experience and qualifications. And I'm running as a Republican.
Yeah, so let me just say that.
Endorsements. I've got endorsements from Democrat judges as well. Raul Gonzalez, you'll see on my website. Raul served on the Texas Supreme Court, elected as a Democrat. Mm-hmm. David Keltner served. He was one of the youngest judges elected in Texas. A Democrat who served on the appeals court up in Fort Worth also endorsed me.
But do you approve of the judges being labeled as Democrat or Republican when they're supposed to be impartial? Does that?
Yeah, should we change the system at some point in time that you just run as a judge as opposed to a party affiliation?
That's a question for the voters of Texas. Yeah. But I think what we have the ability to do in Texas, based on our system, is to decide what kind of judges do we want to serve on our courts. I think we all recognize how important our courts are. Again, I'm Mike Toth. I'm running as a rule of law judge. I'm running as a judge who will apply the law as written. And individuals, voters in Texas, voters who live in any of the 24 counties should get out there. Again, encourage you to go to my website, MikeTothForJustice.com. Who live in any of these 24 counties can decide exactly what kind of judge they want. Do they want a judge?
Yeah, and you're right. The whole thing is
the law is
to get out and
vote. Do they want a judge who has a different judicial philosophy, a philosophy that's results-oriented, where the judge comes into work and
we're about to run up on a break here, and I think Ginger has a question before we go on a break, and we're going to keep you on after the break.
Yeah, go ahead, Ginger.
So, Mike, one of my questions is could you explain your relationship with Joel Loomer?
Joel is a supporter of mine, and again, we've got an amazing collection of supporters all across.
Well, I think what Ginger's trying to ask you, actually, Mr. Toth, is why you took $24,000 from him to help pay your college kids' education. That's what she's getting at.
I think that's a question for Joel. Again, we've got great supporters across the state.
Oh, wait a minute. It's not a question for Joel. How's that a question for Joel? You took the money, $24,000, and your answer was he's a long-time friend, but he doesn't even live in Texas, this guy. He's from Florida.
Yeah.
Why did you take $24,000? That's a very simple question. It's a very simple question. Why did you take $24,000 from an outside lawyer who's not even in Texas to help pay for your kids' college? Why did you do that?
As I've said, Joel is a longtime friend of my family, longtime friend of ours, longtime friend of each of us, and he's a great supporter. He's been a big supporter of the work that we've done on all the campaigns that I've done, but we've got supporters all across the state of Texas as well.
I'm just curious, though, Mike, is that pretty typical? Does that happen a lot? Because I know that I was surprised to find that falls within the lines of considered to be a campaign contribution.
Was that a campaign contribution, or was that
how
just
does that work? And if it's legal, I'd just like to know how it works.
I don't think it is a campaign contribution.
I don't think it was.
It's not a campaign contribution.
Okay.
We reported this on our personal financial statement, which came out, and we've always been fully in compliance with every law.
Here's the problem.